Hello, everyone. I am Daria Aksoy. Welcome to At the Edge of Tomorrow. Today, we are discussing perhaps the most talked about and transformative power of our era, artificial intelligence. We have analyses and reports gathered from solid sources like Business of Fashion, Boston Consulting Group, Harvard Business Review, Turkey.
Yes.
Our goal is to extract the most valuable and interesting points from this sea of information for you. Let's not forget to mention that the At the Edge of Tomorrow program has been prepared with contributions and research from Yasar Atolye. This program also features the new weekly segment of Yasar Atolye, where we will explore the intersections of technology and economics together with Mart Yilmaz.
Absolutely. Artificial intelligence is now everywhere in our lives. Our shopping habits are changing, our ways of working, finance, fashion, even things like the phones and computers we use are evolving. Our goal is to make this major transformation, including the opportunities it brings and the challenges it presents, a bit more understandable for you.
Great. Then let's get started right away. How is the business world being affected? For example, retail, e-commerce. What's happening in those areas with artificial intelligence?
Now, Business of Fashion is saying something interesting. It says that artificial intelligence sees the internet differently from us. In other words, especially the dynamic, constantly changing parts of websites need to be readable by AI. This means that the classic SEO, we know, the race to rank higher on Google.
Yes.
It is gradually giving way to things we call GEO or AO. That is, Generative Engine Optimization or Response Engine Optimization.
So, is the issue now not just appearing in search results, but also being included in the direct response provided by AI?
Exactly. Because giants like Google are developing AI agents, that is, representatives, who can shop on your behalf. Imagine you tell the AI, find and buy me a shoe with these features.
Wow. But sites probably also try to block bots or something like that.
Sure. When they can't tell which bot is good and which is bad, some try to block them all at once. But with companies like Visa and more secure, smart solutions like intelligent commerce, this is being worked on. Also, according to a Salesforce survey, especially Generation Z, the youth, are much more open to the idea of shopping with AI. Apparently, 63% are interested.
Interesting. What about the fashion industry? Is the situation similar there?
It is also how. BCG Ventures and McKinsey have joint reports with Business of Fashion. From design, for example, an example called Raspberry AI is given. For production, virtual samples, mold optimizations, and marketing, brands like Revolve and Casablanca are using it. Everything from customer experience is being reshaped with artificial intelligence.
Does this have any numerical impact?
Isn't it possible? McKinsey's estimate is very striking. It says that in the near future, artificial intelligence could add $275 billion annually to the fashion industry's profits.
$275 billion, an incredible figure, considering Turkey's strength in textiles as well. Absolutely.
There could also be serious opportunities here for us.
Well, let's look at other sectors, for example, energy. I know there are high expectations there, but does it seem like things are moving a bit slower?
Exactly. According to the BCG report, nearly 90% of energy companies see artificial intelligence as a priority, and 85% plan to increase investments. However, there are significant barriers such as the fragmented ecosystem, meaning the systems do not communicate with each other. BCG calls this creative AI chaos. Many pilot projects are being tested, but they rarely scale up and turn into real value.
I understand. So, how do all these technological transformations affect employees, especially white-collar workers? I read in Harvard Business Review Turkey about a concept called the white-collar recession. It sounds honestly, a bit frightening.
Yes, this is a very important issue because artificial intelligence is no longer just handling simple repetitive tasks, but is also starting to perform tasks that require analytical thinking and decision-making as we know them. In fields like finance, law, and human resources. McKinsey has a prediction. It says that in the US, up to 30% of white-collar jobs could change by 2030. It doesn't say they will disappear, but that the nature of the work will change.
ROI, 30% is a very serious rate. So, is this effect the same across all fields? I believe Deloitte's ROI study showed different results.
Correct. Deloitte says that the return on investment, ROI, for artificial intelligence investments is not the same across all departments. For example, there is a 44% positive difference in cybersecurity, meaning it has yielded returns well above expectations. In the information technology department, the ROI is 15%, but in areas like finance and sales, it is negative at 8%. This means that AI investments made in these areas have not yet delivered the expected financial returns.
So, how are employees adapting to this situation? Is there a difference in usage between those working with leaders?
There was something called the silicone ceiling by Boston Consulting Group.
Yes, silicone ceiling. That's a very interesting finding. While over 75% of leaders and managers regularly use AI, the rate remains at 51% among frontline employees who directly deal with customers or production.
Why then this difference?
The main reason seems to be a lack of support and training. Only 25% of employees feel they receive adequate leadership support, and only 1/3 believe they have sufficient training and tools. However, there is also a positive aspect. Employees who receive support have a much more positive attitude towards AI. When support is lacking, only 15% view it positively. But with support, this rate jumps to 55%.
Support is very critical.
So does work anxiety increase?
Unfortunately, it is increasing. 41% of employees believe that their jobs could be eliminated in the next 10 years due to artificial intelligence. And surprisingly, leaders are more concerned about this than the employees.
That's interesting. So we just talked about the low ROI in the finance sector. What are successful finance teams doing differently? Also, there was this stablecoin topic in HBR Turkey. What exactly was that?
They are planning a transformation. They are working well with IT and external technology providers. They are progressing step by step in phases. They have gained the highest returns in areas such as risk management, fraud detection with a 48% ROI difference, income and expense analysis at 47%, and financial forecasting at 45%. Regarding stablecoins, the article in HBR Turkey emphasizes that the massive transaction volumes we see do not always reflect actual payment volume. Speculation is also involved. However, especially in countries like Turkey, there is an increase in real use cases such as cross-border payments or hedging against currency risk. Regulations are gradually coming into effect as well, such as MyCA in Europe and the Genius Act in the US.
I understand. Also, companies like Goldman Sachs investing in young talents we call native AI. Doesn't this generation seem more at peace with this technology?
Absolutely. For them, AI is like the internet for us. It's like a world they are born into. The adaptation and creativity of this generation will be very critical. According to a joint survey by Salesforce and Slack, those who use AI are 64% more productive and 81% more satisfied with their work. This is an important indicator.
On the technology side, it seems that not only software but hardware is also changing. In HBR Turkey, Edis Öztürk mentioned a concept called cognitive infrastructure. What is that?
Exactly. Because traditional processors are no longer sufficient to run such complex AI models. There's a technology called computing memory, for example. It performs computations where the data is stored, making it faster. Or neuromorphic chips. These try to imitate how the human brain works. They aim to perform more complex tasks with less energy. Also, Microsoft is working on quantum computers based on Majorana. If that succeeds, the game could change completely.
That means hardware is now also shaped according to software.
Exactly right.
So, with such rapid change and uncertainty, how are companies managing innovation? Are strategies changing?
They have to change. The Boston Consulting Group's innovation report says something interesting. Companies' readiness for innovation has decreased in recent years. It has declined from 20% to 3%.
Serious decline?
Yes. But at the same time, the most innovative companies are widening the gap during times of crisis. In other words, this uncertain environment creates opportunities for some. Mobile, cloud, AI, then generative AI, and now what we call agentic AI. AI that can make decisions and act on its own, are continuously challenging innovation. To succeed in this environment, being agile and prepared for different scenarios, that is, scenario planning, becomes very important.
Finally, the risks. We can't talk about these either. For example, data security. Business Insider mentioned what happened to a company called Scale AI.
Yes, that Scale AI case is an important warning. It showed how easily sensitive data can be leaked even in human-led labeling processes. Security is very critical. Another major risk is, of course, misinformation and disinformation. MIT had a study showing that false news receives 70% more retweets than accurate news. AI can make this even easier.
A terrible rate. Well, can't AI also be used in solving this with verification tools or something?
Yes, it is being used. AI-based fact-checking tools are being developed, but they also have limitations. They can be inadequate in highly specialized topics, very new claims, or deliberate manipulations. Human oversight and human-AI collaboration are still essential. There are other risks highlighted by Ergişena in HBR Turkey. Biases in AI models, lack of transparency, copyright issues, and of course, environmental impact, that is, the energy consumption of these systems. These should not be overlooked. In summary, what we call artificial intelligence is not just a fancy technology. It is a fundamental force that truly changes our ways of working, industries, and our lives at their core. The opportunities are immense.
But risks and compliance challenges are just as real.
Absolutely.
From finance to energy, the rules of the game are being rewritten everywhere. So, dear viewers, where do you stand in this great transformation? How prepared are you, your company, or individually for this new era? Maybe it's a good idea to spend some time thinking about this weekend. Let's remind you once again, the program At the Edge of Tomorrow has been prepared with contributions and research by Yasar Atolye. See you next week. Goodbye.